Thank you to everybody for joining us this evening and taking time out of your own spare time, time being a very valuable resource at the moment, so we greatly appreciate it. Couple of housekeeping things, all the usual. Please do ask us lots of questions in the Q&A box. We will endeavour to answer as many as we can. However, we won't be able to get to all of them, so please be patient with us as we try to answer your questions and direct them to the panelists. And none of them are going to waste because we will definitely use them to inform future webinars. So thank you for joining in via the Q&A. We have a hashtag for this evening. The hashtag is exiting prostitution. So hashtag exiting prostitution. If you are tweeting, Instagramming, Facebooking, all of the ingings, please do use that hashtag tonight. That would be really great. We'd love to see it shared really widely. We are extremely excited to have these two amazing speakers with us this evening, and I will introduce them in a few minutes, but just to give you a little bit of a background on who we are. Obviously, as you know, we are Nordic Model Now, that is why you are here. The Nordic model is extremely important to us. It's a particular piece of legislation that we are campaigning for. We will hear today from these amazing women very powerful, very graphically about the harms of prostitution. The Nordic model that we campaign for seeks to reduce those harms, to reduce the numbers of women entering prostitution, and to help those who are in prostitution to exit. I'm going to really briefly share my screen with you. The Nordic model, at its very heart, wants to decriminalise women involved in prostitution, provide support, routes out of prostitution, and genuine alternative to those who wish to exit. That's something we're going to be hearing about a lot this evening. And also at the centre of this model is that prostitution buying becomes a criminal offence with the aim of changing men's behaviour. So these are really at the centre of what the Nordic model is, and this is something that we are campaigning for and will continue to do so. These are not the only things that we need to help women in prostitution. We also need to have extremely strong laws against pimping, against human trafficking. We need to have really good public awareness campaigns in schools, in colleges, and we need good training for professionals, frontline practitioners, social workers, police, judiciary, the list goes on. And these are all things that need to be brought in any system in order to really help people that are involved in prostitution. As you will hear probably a little bit tonight, we also need to have some really good alternatives for women who wish to exit. And we need to have really good services to do that, which is why we have these two amazing women with us. The Nordic model is the only legislative approach that actually puts that at the centre of its approach to prostitution, and that's having services that are there to help women exit prostitution. And that's really, really important, which is why we are all here this evening. I will stop talking because you did not come to listen to me. I want to introduce our first speaker, Marie Edmonds. Marie is an expert in this. She has many years of experience of both addiction, selling sex, trauma, and ongoing recovery. A couple of years ago, she founded an amazing project called the Aspirations Day Programme and Carrie Outreach Service in Southend, which is specifically set up to help other women exit prostitution. It also provides specialist addiction services and routes out of selling sex. We are thrilled that Marie can be with us tonight. Marie, I'm going to hand over to you, and then we will introduce Natasha a little bit later. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma, and thank you all for coming. I didn't wake up one day and just decide that I was going to start standing on a street corner and selling myself. There was a stream of adverse childhood experiences in my life that happened when I was growing up. There was a lot of sexual abuse. There was neglect from my mum, and I was attempting to to escape an intolerable reality. And I found myself taking substances. And I don't really want to dwell on the things that led up to me selling prostitution. I really want to focus on my time in prostitution, the services around me, and how I came to exit and setting up Aspirations. I was married and my husband got quite a substantial prison sentence. I had 2 children, and he'd left me with a drug debt, which I have a part in, and I was 18 years old, and out of the back of my house was a red light area, and it was the only way I could see. It was cookering back then in 1999. Today they put a label on it and they've called it cookering, but it was what the dealers had taken over my house, and I couldn't see a way out of my situation. And I went out into this red light area, and it was like a film in my head when I went out there. I was walking down there, and the thought in my head was, well, he's taken it all from me anyway, and that was my abuser, and that's how I minimised what I was about to do. And that was my life for 15 years. It was standing on red light areas, shoplifting in the day to fund my habit, and in that process I lost my children. I was sectioned under the Mental Health Act. My children were never returned to my care, and from when I lost my children, the guilt and shame from losing them children almost killed me. It smashed me to pieces. And it was just like, from when those babies went, I went into self-destruct. And the police started to do a purge in our area. Where the red light area is in our area, it's gone from road to road to road to road over the years, where the police purge and target, and the women just move further up. And I got arrested 4 times for soliciting, and those convictions are still there today. They still live with me today. They're a barrier. It was something that came into my thinking when I wanted to set up my own project, because I couldn't get employment. I really struggled with employment. It doesn't look pretty on your previous convictions. Street prostitution comes with not just having to traumatise yourself. It's
okay, just take a minute.
I'm okay. No, I'm okay. It's standing on a street corner with buyers driving round and round and round. There's power and control that goes on with these buyers till they decide if they're going to pick you up. Then they will bargain with you over the price that they're going to buy you for. What that does to your dignity, your self-worth, your self-respect, it strips you bare. And every time you get in that car with one of them buyers, it's like they take another piece of your soul. I'm going to whack a trigger warning here. I went out into the red light area one night and I was withdrawing, and that comes into it too. When you're withdrawing, somebody touching you, it is relentless. And I wasn't able to do what this man wanted me to do. So he forced me into sex and he raped me. There were no services around at that time, and I buried it so that I felt could help me. And I buried it so quickly and shut it down so quickly that in my head, I told myself, because he chucked the money out of the car and I picked it up, he didn't rape me. It wasn't until I was in recovery that I sat down with a therapist that I paid for, and we unravelled it. And she said to me, no, actually, Marie, this is what happened. It's still there with me today. The impact of that is still there with me today. I tried lots of different treatment centres, and I just couldn't, I couldn't conform to the expectations the rehabs put on me. I was so angry. I was like, I was really angry by the end of my using. There was a lot of different suicide attempts. Standing on the corner was taking longer, because obviously you get younger women coming in. My addictions progressed. They don't look the same. And it just got harder and harder and harder. And there was just one of my last nights out there, the cold. I won't ever forget the cold. There's something about the nighttime and the cold that still stays with me. It's still a part of my trauma that lingers. I'm very aware when the winter's coming. And it was snowing, and I was withdrawing, and the cars were going round and round, and I just thought, I'll tell you what I thought. I thought, if there's a God, please help me and get me out of here. And a few months later, I exited. I went off to a treatment centre, but it didn't work. I got quite angry very quickly, and they put me on what's called a contract for my behaviour. In hindsight, the contract has saved my life, and I'm very grateful for it, because it enabled me to look at myself. I'd done enough work on myself to understand by then that I had a part in what was going on with my anger. And I managed to get clean in a 12-step fellowship. I did it myself with the support of other recovering addicts. It was that simple. And I haven't used since June 7, 2014. What I wasn't aware of, that I'd been left with complex PTSD due to me selling sex. And what I thought were defects of character was actually trauma spilling out of me. And, you know, a group of recovering addicts are fantastic to get clean with. However, they're not counsellors, they're not therapists. It's not for them to diagnose me. So they couldn't identify what was wrong with me. I say it in my article, nobody could hug me, nobody could come near me. And my mental health started to deteriorate, and I was having suicidal ideation in recovery, and I really started to struggle. And in that, because of the lack of safeguarding with me, because of the amount of times I was arrested and nobody ever said, "Are you okay? Why are you selling sex?" I knew I was going to sink or swim. And in this episode, I kind of had the vision for Aspirations. And I got up and I went to college. and I started paying for my own counselling. There's a meme that goes around on Facebook. It says, "You're not responsible for your trauma, but you're responsible for your healing." And I am, and that is what I've done. You know, I've really took responsibility for that, and I'm still in therapy. The selling sex comes up in it near enough every session, but it took me a long time to go there. And I don't live 5 minutes from the red light area. I'm back in the same area, and I'm right by it. And at first I couldn't even go down there. I couldn't go down there. I didn't want to be near there. And what I wanted to set up was an abstinence-based recovery program. And we was doing that, and I was fundraising, and I was contacting local services and drug commissioners, and we were getting there, and then the pandemic hit. And I knew there was only outreach once a week to the women on the red light area that I stood on. And literally, this is what I did. I sent a GoFundMe around Facebook, and I think we spent about £100 in the pound shop, and we made up some outreach bags, and we went down and we started seeing these women, and I started to see women that I used to stand with. I see women that I used to smoke drugs with, and they wasn't even aware about the coronavirus, because they don't have smartphones, they've smoked them. So we educated them, we got all the information we could, and that they were just crying out for help to me. So I knew we had to do something more. Ladies in this meeting, 2 of the ladies that helped me are in this meeting, and in that progress I went up to a project in Gloucestershire called the Nelson's Trust. So I'd never seen a project like this. There were no doors banging. It was calm. There was something about this place that really intrigued me. I'd never been anywhere like it. and we did the trauma-informed training with them, and it blew me away. And I just came back to Southend with this mission to educate services about trauma-informed approaches. And I started doing presentations to trustees of local services. And in that process, I'm going to say her name, she's going to hate me for it, Helen McDonald, she really, really helped me. And Catherine Story is going to really hate me for saying her name. But Helen was the local ward councillor at the time, and anyone that knows her, she's she's really passionate about this stuff, and she's quite feisty. Now, I left school with not one qualification to my name. I don't understand the language the commissioners are using. Catherine Story helped me with that, and I would literally, as I'm trying to break down these barriers, I'd have to get them to help me with emails. If I was getting really stressed out, because I can come from emotions, I'd have to sit down with one of them and they'd help me write the email. They gave me lots of tips. Now I can speak the language fluently, but I on purpose don't do it. Catherine said to me at the beginning of this journey, be yourself, and that is what I have been. I'm all right. I can see Gemma going on. I have to keep a part of Marie from that red light area. She knows how to survive. So I use a little bit of her and a little bit of the Marie and the tools she's learned in recovery to be the women's voices. We now have a 2-day-a-week drop-in, trauma-informed drop-in. We've got 45 women with complex needs attend our women's only service. 25 of them women are women that sell sex. 19 of those women were not engaging with local services. They wasn't registered with drug and alcohol treatment services. 9 of those women were off sleeping. They were the hidden homeless women. We have no women that are homeless now. We've worked collaboratively with other agencies and we put them into services. 7 of those women are now on scripts, but some of them, they're so complex that some of the women we work with, their trauma is just on another level, where it is just a case of safeguarding them. And on that training delivered from the Nelson's Trust, they told us about a safeguarding forum that they run up there, and they have multiple agencies in there, and Helen and Catherine were really instrumental in getting this set up in Southend. So we hold a fortnightly operational safeguarding meeting, and it has all the agencies in it: police, probation, the council, the drug and alcohol, any agency that is now working with these women are in there, and they're held accountable to their actions. You know, they haven't done it, well, why haven't you done it? You need to go. And safeguarding is really at the forefront of Aspirations. It's really important to us to keep these women safe as best we can. We're trying to keep them alive. And what's happened in that, I've highlighted some really serious safeguarding concerns where the council have had no choice but to sit up and listen, because it isn't a case of when they was, it isn't a case of if they was going to be sat in a serious case review. It was when. And now, with the help of Helen and Catherine, the council, we're writing Southend's First Street prostitution strategy. I do not believe an ounce of my pain has been wasted. It's all gone. That isn't my saying, that's my friend Kirsty Dave saying from the Nelson's Trust. That's her saying, I pinched that. It hasn't been wasted. It's been used to fuel my purpose to be those women's voices, and slowly things are changing. Like, agencies are listening, they're working collaboratively, sorry, I'm so tongue-tied, collaboratively with us, and the women have got a safe place to come. I'm going to wrap it off. We've got 2 women who come to this service every week. They come in, they have something to eat, they come and have a cigarette, they get on the couch and they lay down and they go to sleep for a few hours, week in, week out, because it's their safe place. I'll leave it there.
Thank you Marie, that was, yeah, it was amazing. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you also for sharing what it is you're doing. It sounds like amazing work, and I hope when we get to the questions and answers bit, we can delve into it a little bit further. I will now introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Natasha. So for 15 years, Natasha struggled with a crack and alcohol addiction that she funded through stripping, prostitution, drug runs, and other crime. However, when Natasha tells her story, her problem started much earlier than that, when tragically she was rejected at birth and put up for adoption. She has now been clean and out of prostitution for 5 years, and is setting up a residential program called C2C to help women who have been in any form of prostitution recover and start rebuilding their lives. Natasha's motto, which when I read this earlier, I got a little bit choked up, but hopefully won't this time, is that you are not defined by your past, you are prepared by it. So I will hand the floor over to Natasha.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on. Wow, Marie, I just love you, honestly. What a amazing warrior woman you are, man. So thank you. Okay, so for myself, I can kind of mirror some of Marie's story, my story and her story. For me, I was an adult recovering from my childhood. Mine had started at birth when I was abandoned in a hospital. Now, studies have shown that the most important years of a human's life are the 0 to 7 years. And then 7 years, maps are, the systems in your brain that are being mapped out, and how you're going to function, how you deal with your emotions, how you're spoken to. Everything happens in those first 7 years. Well, within my first 7 years of life, I was abandoned by my birth parents, adopted at 2 days old, and then abandoned again. So at this point, my mum, bless her heart, that adopted me, got in a relationship with another guy, who then come along and started hitting me and putting me down with his words, calling me thick, and hitting me around. So it was just within them first 7 years, I'd already set up my pathway, and his words had become my identity. He'd always call me thick. So through school, I struggled academically. By the age of 14, because of my home life, I got into a relationship with a travelling boy who was 3 to 4 years older than me. In and out of school, like Marie, no education, left with nothing, and off you go into this world. And I can't even say I was broken, I was shattered. I was hollow inside. So I started using to mask that pain, to take that pain away. And it starts with the social drugs, with your pills and your weed and your coke, because they're sociable. And then one night, someone handed me a crack pipe, and just to cut a long story short, cost me 15 years of my life. And it goes like that. 1 minute, you're getting your friend to score for you. The next minute, you've got the dealer's number, and you've lost your job, you've lost your house, you've lost your car, you've robbed everyone in work, and now you ain't got a job to fund your habit. So, I started down the route of robbing. I do a lot of drug runs from Brixton, London up to Luton. And then the thing is, when you've robbed so many places and you're barred from every town, there's nowhere else to rob. You can't go in the shops, you can't do trolley runs out your local Sainsbury's, you ain't got a car because you've got no tax insurance and your car's been taken. You're on foot now. And for me, I had a habit to feed, and that took me down the route of selling my body. But it starts first with sexual favours to your dealer. Little things like that, when you ain't got enough money, and we can be real here, all right, I'll give you a blowjob, sexual favours, it starts there. But unfortunately, my first 3 children that I carried, I smoked crack, heroin, and drank alcohol through their pregnancies. And my first daughter was born 5 weeks prem in a pool of blood. I've been on a session for 4 days and didn't even know I was in labour. I was knocked out, woke up, blood everywhere. I was on my days. My mum that adopted me, bless her heart, took her away, stepped in before the social did, luckily, and she took my kids before social did. And at that point, I was so addicted, I'll be honest with you, I found it a bit of a relief. You know, I'd left her in a crack house, I'd gone out to school, not come back. You've got people using pins in there, and, you know, they're injecting, there's men in there. And yeah, so they had to, my children had to go, and like Marie, it's the most traumatizing thing. And you sit down and you're like, how did I get here? How did I get here? Because it goes so quickly, you know. And I've got a picture of me, because I was homeless and I did lose my house and different things. I've got one picture left of me. It's not the prettiest, it's not nice, but it's not who I am anymore. But anyone can see that's what I look like, in a nappy, really ill. And that was in my early 20s, before the extra 10 years, you know, stepped in. And you'll be doing things that you never ever dreamed possible. You know, crack has no respect for anyone. Heroin has no respect for anyone, you know, and crack had become my, how can I say, once addicted, I was like a dog with a bone for it. There was nothing I wouldn't have done. And I got to the stage where I was robbing my own dealers. I would follow them to see where they would hide their stash out at night, in different fields and bushes, and I would go and rob them. They've turned up at my mum's house with guns, kicked doors off in other places, put windows through, put my car windows through, and you're on the run constantly, this life that it is. And then before you know it, you're in a house where women are working from this house, and you just get sucked into it. And I remember the first time that I did it. I remember like it was yesterday. He was so old, and it's like, my gosh, you know. And then before you know it, there's 2 or 3 of them in a room, and you're doing certain things, and then it goes on and on and on. And literally there's just nothing left within you. And one of the issues that I found now I've come through the other side and doing all the things that I've done is, you know, how can I say this? Now I'm on the other side and I look back, you know, what I want to do today is tell a bit of my story, and, you know, the things that you do. Like Marie, I battled mental health. I was in and out, being sectioned, and it led me down the path of being medicated for a paranoid schizophrenic. You know, when you're not sleeping for days and weeks at a time because you're constantly high, because the problem was I wasn't just trying to feed my habit, I was trying to escape reality. I was trying to escape my reality of being abandoned from birth, being rejected, being beaten, being left. I mean, I've been one of my exes, and you end up being in relationships that you know are no good for you, but you stay. You stay because you know you're worthless inside, and you feel worthless, and this person's giving you just a little bit of attention, just a little bit of this, you know, broken noses, broken ribs, crack my skull open, you know, different things, fighting over pipes that you'll end up picking a knife up to kill someone for your last pipe. Drives you insane, you know. But like Marie said about, you know, the mental health adding on to then the addiction, and then escaping the reality that you're in, and always constantly trying to stay high. And as you said, now I look at my life, I've got all my children back, and where I'm at now, being clean 5.5 years, and I'm setting up my first rehab next month. Now, and it's funny, like Marie said, where she lives, just like me, I'm from South, I'm from Luton, but I've now moved up north, and I ended up moving to Holbeck, where it was the only legalised zone in the whole of the UK. You couldn't write it. I was like, oh my gosh, what on earth? But you know what? God always has a bigger plan, because here I am in the centre of what I've left behind. But you know what? The women I've been able to reach around here and being able to spend time with, and the zone, you know, here, like on the zone, you know, out of my fight. So basically, just to fill you in on my rehab, so next month we actually open, and it's a 12-month live-in rehabilitation program. And they will come and live in with us. They'll do a 12-step recovery program while they're in for the 12 months. And for me, some of the things that I wanted to embed into this house is what I struggled with. I've taken down 10 things that I believe is a barrier to leaving prostitution and just addiction in general. I don't know if I'm all right to talk about that now. Am I all right just to go ahead and speak about those barriers? Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Thank you, Gemma. So a few of the things that I found, the barriers to leaving prostitution are obviously the main issue is substance misuse. Now, my issue was, once you've gone for just doing your daily robbings and robbing people and doing fraud and robbing off your mum and doing as much robbing as you can, as soon as you step into prostitution and stripping and escorting, you know, you start making a whole heap of more money. So then your habit goes from here to here. So now your habit is more ferocious because you're getting more money. You know, so the biggest barrier that we find is the addiction. So within the house, as I said, we're going to do a 12-month living program where we're going to help them break free from the chains of addiction, because trying to get them clean in the very area they're using, we have struggled around here in Holbeck. You know, because for me, it's the familiar surroundings, it's the people you know, especially if you have a pimp as well who's controlling you, if you have a partner who's using you to send you out to go to work, you know, and taking the drugs off you. So we've put the house in a safe place over the other side of Yorkshire. So it's not in the same place that they're using. Now, another barrier that I found was housing, homelessness. You know, most of these women, like me, was sofa surfing while I still had my car before they come and took it off me, because what another avenue I went down to make money is I take car, before I ended up in great debt and blacklisted, I would take cars on finance, and then I'd have a gap insurance, and me and my mates would write them off, and we'd make a lot of money and put people in the car and get thousands of pounds from the people in the car that were never there, you know, and give them a little bit of money. So at that particular time, before my car was taken off me, I would live in the car. You know, my mum's taken my daughter and here I am living in my car. But if you're not living in the car, you're sofa surfing. And the problem is with that is when you decide to get clean, you're still in the same circle of people that are still using, then you get dragged back, you know. So homelessness definitely is a barrier. The other one is mental health problems. You know, you've got to remember, these men that are coming to these women are predators, no two ways about it. These are men in their right mind. Some of them have got big boy jobs, got wives and car seats in the back of the car, okay? And these women, like me, I was a paranoid schizophrenic. People have found me locked in cupboards for days later, you know? They're manic depressant, just like me, suicide attempts. They don't want to live. They're not in their right frame of mind. And they're being taken advantage of by these predators. And normally this will stem from, like myself, childhood trauma. I was beaten up a lot by my stepdad, you know, and that's probably happened in most of the cases with these women. Like myself, they're mostly adults recovering from their childhoods, you know. And also another barrier is something that Marie touched on is, you know, criminal offences. When you've got a criminal offence as long as your arm and all different things, it makes it hard. So another thing that we want to do in the house is, I'll be honest with you, I spent 15 years in crack houses. I didn't even know how to cook an egg. You know, I want to teach these women not just to come in and do the 12-step program. We want to teach them life skills, learn how to cook, cooking lessons, you know, learn how to make a house a home, you know, learn. So we've got a company that's partnering with us that are going to take these women back through their GCSEs. Like me, no education, I didn't have a clue. We're going to get them re-educated, and then they can go on to do college and uni if they want. And this company that's partnering with us have a specific number of companies that are willing to take these girls on in jobs so they can get their foot back in the door. What else? Again, I've mentioned lack of qualifications and training. Age of entry is so important to these women. My fear is this, that if they stay in the same cycle on the street, I don't care whether you want to put on street prostitution, if you're escorting, some of the things that went on in my life escorting, you'll get men that will phone up and they will book you. You go there and there's about another 5 men and they get you in a room. Yeah, it's just as traumatic as the streets. And they're coked up, they're drunk up. You're just trying to do what you need to do to get your money and get out in one piece, you know. And I think age of entry is so important, because the longer they stay in prostitution, it will no longer be, this is what I do, but this is who I am. They won't be able to tell the difference. It will forge into their character. It will be who they become. We've got to get them out. And I think there's one more, did I say? No, that is my last ones that I've written down that I found with myself. So, you know, within the house, like I said, we're going to be doing different things, different outreaches, getting them out to getting them volunteering in different places, you know, and teaching them how to love again themselves. I didn't love myself. I hated looking in the mirror. I despised myself. And that in itself is a journey. And for myself, because I was very, very fortunate to get all my kids back, we've got a woman that's just retired. She's a retired social worker. She's got some great connections. So I've got a 5-bed house. Well, it's 6-bed, but for 5 women, and the other bed is for the living worker, who would be the house manager of the house. And, you know, we're going to be working with these women to get them to work back towards relationships, building relationships with their children. You know, 2 of the women that are coming in out of the 5 are in the process of having their children taken off them. But if they're coming into this program, the social are willing to work with us to see how they do, so they can start building that relationship back with their kids. You know, because if we do not you've got to remember, when a man is an addict, it's very different to when a woman is an addict. The impact on the children is completely different. A man can come and go, but as soon as you take that mother out of the house, you can never replace the mother's love. And I learned that myself. So what we want to do is start building those relationships back up with the children. You know, one of the ladies that's coming in, her children are a little bit older, and because they've been let down so many times, they're finding it hard to trust. We've heard this before, Mum. Do you know one of the things I used to do to my kids, my girls, and this is after I'd gotten back because I relapsed as well, really bad. I would say to my girls, I'm just going up to get milk. Didn't come back. Left them. Didn't even come back for my kids in the house. Left my 2 girls. I didn't come back for weeks. And I don't want that to be the portion for any other child. You know, yes, it is still a reality, but if I can work with these women and help them, you know, that's what we want to do. We want it to be an all-round thing, not just to come in and get clean. We want them to, you know, a full round, you know, picture for them, and help them, you know, with every area that I know that I struggled in. So then we're going to have as well, what we're going to do is after they've done the 12 months, the issue that you have with rehabs is we take these ladies in and we wrap them in bubble wrap for 12 months and then you send them back out in the big wide world. And it's like, oh, what do we do? You know, so we've got aftercare houses where they can come and live for up to 3 years. And in these aftercare houses, they'll still have all the care that they need or that they don't need, and then they'll go off and venture out into jobs and pick up and do what they're going to do. But there'll be lifelong care and support there for them. Out of the 5 girls, 3 of the girls have worked the zone here in Holbeck. So out of the 5, 3 of them have worked the zone and we've pulled them out of it. So, yeah. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I probably went on a bit too much.
No, please definitely do not apologise. That was incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. I have a million questions, but I will go to our questions that we have in the chat. I will start with this one. There are many more, so brace yourself for some questions. We have a question, and I think Marie, you started to answer it in the chat itself, but somebody is interested to hear what kind of therapy you both have benefited from throughout your recovery process. They've mentioned EMDR, which I think, yeah, is also a very popular therapy at the moment, but this person would be interested to hear what other forms and types that have really benefited you. So Marie, I know you started to answer in the chat, so maybe I can pass it to you first.
Yeah, first of all, I went under psychodynamic therapy, but EMDR was the breakthrough for me. However, there had to be breaks in it because it literally does take you back there. And I do believe for this type of cohort, like, you need to be ready, you need to be stable in your recovery. I was almost 6 years clean when I started it, and I've just had a year's break. So yeah, the person has to be like stable to go there. It's a very intense therapy, but definitely works.
Super. Natasha, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, for myself, I've done the 12-step program that I'm running through my house. So the program doesn't just, like I said, help you through, getting clean off the drugs. It helps with all the baggage that you're carrying from your childhood and from the past, but it deals with all the trauma. It deals with your emotions. It tells you how to deal with your emotions. And also it helps you. So for instance, when you start using, this is the way I can explain addiction as well, because obviously it's instant gratification, but in your mind, when you start using, you create, like, when you're walking in a field and it's all nice, but then you start walking back and forth, you create a bridle way. And that's what happens in the mind when you start using. You create bridle ways and you start opening up different parts, and it teaches this takes you through how to close them all down. And so yes, that's how I got my
Brilliant. Thank you so much. We have a follow-on question, which is, I think this is going to be for Natasha. Are you taking referrals for the rehab that you have set up?
Oh, sorry. Yes, we are. Yes.
Okay. And can people contact you directly, or they can?
Yeah, if you contact me directly. Definitely.
Great. Okay, we can share some of those details after then. I have a question, and it's been really interesting to hear both of you speak about the different barriers to exiting prostitution. Both Natasha, that was a really clear kind of 10 barriers, and Marie, I think from your own experience, you've also, hit off pretty much the same things. And I suppose I'm thinking of young people, particularly young people that have been through the care system. My background is working in child protection. I've seen a lot of children go through the care system, and a lot of them disappear because there's no aftercare services available, and even the services that are there when they're of age are also, they can leave a lot to be desired. So I'm just wondering, from your experiences, what is it that agencies, social services, social workers, foster carers, anybody who is involved with children at risk, like, what can they be doing to make sure that, as you both said, that children are not going down that road of prostitution and ending up in addiction and into these really vicious cycles?
Okay, so I did go through the care system, and I wasn't safeguarded. I wasn't risk assessed. I was not safeguarded. The adverse childhood experiences weren't looked at. And we work with social care like Natasha. And I think they are the hardest agency to get through to. They do not understand the women's needs. They won't even, so we had one wanting to start the day programme, the abstinence-based day programme. They wouldn't even change the day of the contact so they could attend this programme, for them to exit and stay clean. They need to do some trauma-informed care training. That's what they need to do. They need to do some research. That they need to listen to understand, not to listen to reply all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Natasha, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, completely. Just piggybacking what Marie said there, she's absolutely right. They are the hardest. They really, really, really are. And it's hard. I think, again, just educating them, because I understand that, because when my mum adopted me, she couldn't have children, so she fostered. So I always have fostered kids around me, so she knew the system very well, and she knew what they were like, and on one hand, and hear my heart here, she's seen them being very ruthless, and it's like, bam, no excuse. And on the other hand, it's like, that needs to be done. So it is hard for a social worker. They're in a position, and I think, maybe better communication lines, how we can work together, understand what's right, what's best for both ends, and just listening to people that have walked the walk. They've got all, and hear my heart, they've got all this education, they're doing it all this way, but understand this side, I think that would be better if, open lines of communication.
Yeah, I think that's so important, isn't it? And for services to be open to that. And it sounds like from both of your works, you know, you're collaborating with other services in the community, which is really important. And, you know, it can be a real uphill battle. So it's amazing to hear that you've had such good successes in doing that. Do you have any tips for how you've gone about doing that and how you've managed to collaborate so well?
For myself, just to finish that as well, what we all seem to be forgetting is we need to be working together. Nothing's going to work without unity. Yeah, and that's point blank. If we all start working together in unity, things would, can you imagine where we'd be? And I think that's the main thing here. If we work together in unity and realise we're all trying to get to the same end goal here, partner together and help each other, so that you working over here, you working over here, no, it doesn't work. And it hasn't worked, you know. So I think, yeah, just unity, really. And sorry, I've just forgot that last one that you just said.
That's all right. I think I've nearly forgotten it myself. Sorry, Marie, do you want to add anything to that of how you've collaborated, or yeah, do you have anything to add on?
Sadly for us, it took some very serious safeguarding concerns to get services to listen to us. So it was CCing literally other professionals into emails, Helen and Catherine, you know, and sometimes these threads would go on for days and days and days, with commissioners, with frontline workers, with operational managers, till then finally I was just really blunt, and I laid it out to them, you know, that this is happening, A, B and C is happening, like how are you allowing this to happen? And it's not taking, like, it's perseverance and just learning not to take no for an answer and keep sending that. And Helen gave me a good tool: when they don't respond, follow it up 3 days later to please see above email. It's a great tool she's given me.
Okay. I'm going to steal that. That's great. And yeah, I think you're right. It is perseverance all the way as well, which takes a lot of patience, obviously, on your behalf. Natasha, we have a question on whether or not your house is a charity or if you're getting any type of government funding.
Yeah, so we're a charity. I set the charity up in December 2019. And then last year we went into lockdown, and it was just crazy up here in Holbeck. It was just, honestly, it was carnage. You can imagine what was going on. Yeah. Honestly, addictions went through the roof, domestic violence, it was just, honestly. So last year was more just out on the streets, taking food, being hands and feet. But then this year in January, I was just like, you know what? Signposting these women is not how I need to do more. Do you know what I mean? So we set up as a charity, we're a registered charity, and are we getting government funding? You see, now this is the thing. We are, yeah, so hear my heart here. Please hear my heart. I don't want people to hear what I'm not saying. When I relapsed for 6 years, and that's when I tried to kill myself with my son in my belly because I'd had another child, through my dealer who was enabling me. What I'm saying is, sometimes what I don't want to do is keep these women in the same circle. I want to get them out. I want to get them free. I want them to have life like I've got. I want them to have a job like I've got. I want them to come down and cook dinner for the kids. Do you know what I mean? And what I'm saying is, yes, we still go out and we feed them, we help them and whatever else. But what I'm saying is, you can't be what you can't see. So if no one is telling these women, come on, do you know what? Come on, look, this is where this is. But if you're going to keep going out and hear my heart, please, giving them needles and giving them condoms and handing them food, and then they've got their whole money, just like I used to have my whole gyro to go and spend on crack and heroin and alcohol and whatever else I could pour down myself, then I would have done. But that's not my heart. You know, I want to get them out so they can live, so they can have a life. Because one thing I know about addiction is I was just the walking dead. I had scabs everywhere. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like I was literally just the walking dead, you know. So for me, do we get government funding? Okay, so what we are going to do in the house is get enhanced housing benefit, which will help us. You know, I've got 5 kids. I can't run the house myself. I'm pioneering the house and the following houses that I'm going to be setting up. But we get, so what we can claim is enhanced housing benefit, and then, you know, their normal housing benefit, which will cover my house manager's staff wage. And then we can apply for little bits and pieces, you know, like sanch towels and this and that, but we need help. We've got this house now. So just to fill you in, this company saw my heart and saw the vision, and they said, look, we'll buy you a house. I was like, what? And they were like, we'll buy you a house. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. So they're buying the house, but we've got to lease it from them. So out of that enhanced benefit, we've got our lease, we've got our account, we've got all the normal stuff. We're feeding them, we're taking care, we're paying for everything. So with that, that's all we're claiming. That's how we're doing it. And we can claim for little things, like we said, like sanch towels, and we can go to the local food stores and we can say, look, you know, can you partner with us? We're giving us so much food a week, you know, the food that we throw away, and maybe the food that's a little bit whatever, and can you help us at this and that? And we can do things like that. But we've now got the house, and me and my trustees totaled it up the other day, and we're like, I want the best for these girls. I don't want some second-hand furniture. I want the best for them. Like me, I just want them to know that they are precious. And we want to do the rooms out beautifully for them. You know, it's going to take £8,000 to buy all the furniture, all the white goods, to carpet up, to buy their bedroom furniture, you know, to have a sofa. The house that we've got has got a log burning fire. And I think it's going to be beautiful for them in the winter, you know, sitting around with a hot chocolate in the winter with a log burning fire. We're going to put fairy lights up, because it isn't a rehab facility, it's a home. These women need a home, they need love, they need life speaking into them. So at the minute, no, we don't have any other funding, but I have put my GoFundMe page up there. We haven't even shared it out on Facebook and that. I'm waiting until I get the keys to the house before I share it on my social medias. But if anybody wants to, you know, put in and partner with us for these women, it would mean the world, because we have to furnish the house. We've got to get up and running. So yeah.
Yes, we will we'll repeat that plug as well.
Thank you.
So please do give whatever you can, and we'll share some slides at the end as well with information for people. Marie, I know as well that you said you had a similar issue with COVID hitting, you know, plans going out the window, as most things did in COVID. How have you managed to fundraise? Are you in receipt of any type of government funding, or is this all on the back of your hard work, much like Natasha?
I'm also in a 12-step fellowship like Natasha, so I have a lot of people in recovery on my Facebook. So GoFundMe to start with. We've got the outreach starting. We have literally held boot sales where I've just asked people to donate everything that they've got to boot sales. We've done sponsored walks. When we couldn't go out in the pandemic, we held a sponsored silence for women that had lost their lives in street prostitution, and for any addicts. That got quite a good feedback. I did a sponsored silence which got over £1,000. People couldn't wait to shut me up. But we have started to, not government funding, but we have started to get some funding in now. We've just got the money for a service manager, which we need because we run on volunteers and we're working in complex trauma. You know, and of course we don't just have the abstinence-based day program. We've got a fantastic therapist on that who needs paying. We also have a support worker who needs paying for that. You know, for it to have an impact, the people need to be paid. So the workers that have had the most impact, we pay them, but most of us are still doing this voluntary. And we're a charity. Fundraising is going to be consistent, and like Natasha, our vision is a house and an outreach van as well. We want to get an outreach van in. We have partnerships with another agency on the latest Women of the Night Fund, and we're waiting to hear back from that in November for the outreach van. But Natasha, I will send you some funding pots that may be able to help you guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow, okay, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. And yeah, similar shameless plug for.
Oh, and we've got fairy lights. And we've got fairy lights. We've got fairy lights and plants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you see?
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So just, you've both mentioned numerous times mental health, addiction, complex trauma. All of these things are huge. We have a question from Jude, and she's wondering what training you would recommend for those walking alongside women in addiction who are facing all of these different challenges. Natasha, I'll start with you, and then maybe Marie, I can come to you after that.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. I don't know whether you guys have heard of Teen Challenge. Yeah, well, I used to work with them because I did encounter with God. That's how I ended up getting clean. So I did encounter with God completely on the streets of Luton. Didn't believe, by the way, actually more of a, I can't say atheist, but I just didn't believe. That's all I can say to you. And then got radically delivered and whatever. And then I started working with Teen Challenge. And something me and one of the specific people that used to lead the outreach down in Holbeck is that there wasn't enough training for this. So I've got a lady who's coming down. Now, she was a leader in Teen Challenge and she's pioneered a house up in Bolton. And she's coming to train all my volunteers. So they're going to be trained in trauma, how to deal with trauma, because what I don't want to do is just bring volunteers in for the sake of it. I'm going to be very picky. I'm going to be very honest. I'm not just having anybody in my house with these precious women, because I want to make sure that these women have a heart. The volunteers have a heart for these women, really have a heart. That doesn't mean to say you've got to walk, you know, you've got to have done it, you know what I mean, and lived the life like me and Marie to have a heart. You can still have a heart. Do you know what I mean? You can so have a heart. So I want to make sure that the volunteers that are coming in have a heart for these women, you know, and have maybe been affected by addiction, because we've got to keep it real. Addiction doesn't affect just the user, it affects 8 to 10 people around you. So 9 times out of 10, these people that are volunteering have been struck by addiction in one place or another. It could be a friend, neighbour, child, spouse, mum, dad. So for us, we're training all our volunteers. We want to train them on the lady that's coming down who pioneered the house in Bolton. She's training them on trauma. She's training them on boundaries. I think it's very important because, let's keep it real, I was the queen at manipulation, mate. Do you know what I mean? My lies were so good, I could have gotten an Oscar award, mate. I even believed my own lies. And I'd be like, that was good, Tash. There's another 500. Do you know what I mean? So I want these women that are coming in, the volunteers, to have that wisdom, so to say. Do you know what I mean? These girls, when they first come in, they're still going to be from rag. They're still going to be, even though they want to get clean and, you know, and whatever else, we want to make sure that the volunteers are protected themselves. Do you know what I mean? So we want to get them trained in boundaries, in trauma and addiction. Yeah, so that's what I'm training my volunteers in anyway. And obviously to be CRB checked, to make sure they're all checked and it's all up to date and things like that. So yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Marie, can you add anything to that? It'd be great to hear from your experience as well.
Without question, to work with these women, you need to work in a trauma-informed approach. It will not work. So many services in this town have attempted to work with these women and failed because they've never worked in a trauma-informed approach. You need to work in a psychologically informed approach as well. Our volunteers aren't lived experience either. Like just saying what Natasha said, they have the heart, they're fantastic, they are safeguarding trained, they are boundaries trained, you know, but what they have is a non-judgmental air about them, and they genuinely care, and the same as that, all DBS checked, but trauma-informed approaches, that is what's needed for these women. And I'd sing that from the rooftops to any organisation. The police need to be trauma-informed, social services need to be trauma-informed, everywhere needs to be trauma-informed.
And Marie, is there an appetite for that training for the police, for social workers, for anybody who's, you know, really involved frontline services? Or
we're getting there in Southend now.
Okay.
And if anybody in this meeting is thinking of get trauma-informed training, please look up an organisation called the Nelson's Trust. A lot of the women have exited themselves. So they know what they're talking about. we've trained some of the police in trauma-informed approach. What we do when we have training, we invite people from other organisations onto that training. So they're being trained, and what's happened from that is they then go off, take it back and get their organisation trained. It's had a ripple effect. Okay, great. I was also just aware when you were speaking, you were talking very much about obviously your own experience and how you had PTSD, which nobody could identify, obviously because they haven't been trained, and also that you dealt with a lot of this yourself in therapy, but it was therapy that you had to pay for. So I'm also just wondering, you know, are there services out there that people can access free of charge that are going to have that same level of care and focus on that trauma-informed approach that is necessary? You know, or is that something else that we need to be campaigning for and looking for? So obviously you've got Mind, which is a great organisation, but the waiting list is over a year. And like Natasha, I went through the 12 steps, but the 12 steps do not touch my PTSD. They don't. They treat my addiction problem, and there is a massive healing process through it. However, it's like the only way I can explain the 12 steps, it's like, so I'm like a volcano. My addiction's all bubbling on the top. The 12 steps get rid of all that. They get rid of all that. But underneath all that smoulder, all that rock, it's all bubbling away. And I've been around the steps a good few times. I'm over 7 years in recovery. The PTSD has never gone away. I still wake up 5-6 times a night fighting people, coming out of my sleep. I still disassociate. Like, we do outreach onto the red light area I used to stand on. I can still be up there and start disassociating when I'm up there, but I can catch it. I've got the tools to catch it. There is no service in this town that I can go to get help for that unless I'm paying for it. Yeah, it's continues to shock me that there's still such a lack of services. Yeah. We have another question here. So this is a lady from Nicaragua. You're very welcome for joining us. This is the joy of being able to do things online. Who's very interested in raising funds to help women and girls exit prostitution. They're in that context, and she would like to know from your perspective what the most urgent kind of help the women and girls need to exit, so that they can begin with that. And how to approach the topic of exiting with them. There's no social services. Feminist organisations don't help women exit, but promote as a profession. So there's not really any help, for women and girls. So, sorry, there was questions there. Any advice on where it is this person needs to start with even just approaching women and girls involved in prostitution? What are those first things that they need? And then I will jump a little bit on the second part of that conversation or question around, you know, how do you have any advice around how we frame the issue of prostitution as, you know, an issue that, as you've raised, that has all of these different harms associated with it, as opposed to a profession that people enter freely because they want to. But if we could start with the first question, that would be great. Tasha, I'll go to you.
Okay, so first of all, to say how do we get them out quickly, I'm going to be brutally honest. You've got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired in your addiction and in your life, because that facilitates change. Because you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So you've got to understand these women are ready. You'll know when they're ready, if that makes sense. You know, I've done it now, like I say, for 5 years, working back with them and whatever else, and you'll know who's ready and you know who won't. But the ones that are ready, this is why, and this is another thing that I want to do in my house, is we're taking them in as they are. Another issue that you find with rehabs, I'll go away and get detox to 30 ml methadone. What? You lose them in that period. You lose them in that time frame. They don't have the strength to come down off the methadone in their familiar surroundings that we've needing to use, go out and rob, go out and sell their body and do what they're doing, you know, so that's where you're losing them in that window. Do you know what I mean? That time frame there. And we're taking them in, straight in. And that's, so with that answer to that question is, you'll know who's ready, you'll know which women are ready, because you could just see that they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they'll be like, look, I want out. And with that, the only advice I can give is that whoever this person is, they're going to have to look for safe houses, because like I said, rehabs will not take you in until you've at least weaned down to at least 30 ml of methadone, and 9 times out of 10 these girls are on methadone as well as using, and then on top of the white as well. Get them into a safe house if you know any safe houses where you can detox them down to 30 ml methadone and then get them into a rehab. Okay, thanks, Natasha. Marie?
So this is something that's coming up in our street prostitution strategy. And it's very similar to what Natasha said. You know, when you have to seize that moment when a woman wants to exit, because that moment will pass. The perpetrator will come back, the drugs will land in their lap, the withdrawals will pass. So in that moment when they're desperate, you need to grab them and pull them out. It's exactly that. It's safe houses, it's crisis houses, it's crisis accommodation, it's getting them scripted within 24 hours so they don't have to leave because they've got withdrawals. And then it's keeping them safe while you get them off that methadone. And that is what we're fighting for in our systems down here. It's exactly what we're fighting for.
Okay, brilliant.
I've had so many opportunities. From women, 3 o'clock in the morning, Marie, get me out of it, and there's nothing I can do because there's no resource. Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah,
I can put them in a B&B. That's what we do. We have to put them in a B&B, but then by the next day they're off again.
Yeah, well, they're only short-term solutions, really, aren't they, to long-term problems? So it's those long-term solutions that we need. So I hope that went some way to answer your question. Just to follow on from that particular question, which was raised around this idea of prostitution as work, as sex work, and I'm just wondering if I could hear your thoughts on that, as people who have exited prostitution and who are working alongside women still involved. Marie, you're shaking your head, so I'll go to you.
It makes me really angry when people use that term, sex worker, because it's not work, it's exploitation. It's if you are mentally and physically dependent on a drug, you have no power of choice. You are not up there on a red light area, stood there by choice. And you know, and society labelled me as a sex worker for so long. That's what I used to call myself. It wasn't until I met Helen that she broke it down for me. And this was at 7 years in recovery. I was still calling myself a sex worker at 7 years in recovery. And she said, well, do you know what? Maybe you weren't. Maybe you was being exploited, and maybe this was. And now I just, like, she really opened my eyes with that. And now we had to reword our whole website. We had to, which Helen kindly did, bless her. We had to completely change the whole language. No, it's not work. It's not work. Work is getting up and going to Lidl's in the morning and sitting behind a till. That's work.
Yeah. Natasha, and then I might just pop back to Marie for a follow-up question.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Marie's bang to rights. It's not work. And I think when you say, you look on my website, I'll tell you straight, prostitute, and that's what it is. But the thing is, when you start standing out from the rest, this is where you start going down this little path, because, you know, other charities are saying sex work and this and that, and they're the ones getting all the funding, and they're the ones that are helping them do whatever. But when you start taking a step back and saying, no, we're taking a stand. No, we're not. It's not right. So don't feed them lies into these women that, like Marie said when I said earlier, it'll be no longer what you do, but who I am. Oh yeah, I'm a sex worker. Yeah, it's your identity. So yeah, no, we do not agree with that. Yeah.
And Marie, I'll come back to you on this in a second, because it got me thinking a little bit around how you said somebody helped explain it to you. So I'm just wondering, Natasha, do you because you're taking this stand and it's obviously very important to you, how do you address that with the women and girls that you're working with who may actually see this as sex work as a profession, or just not even see the exploitative nature of it?
Again, it's about that time of healing, of reprogramming the brain. You know, like I said, when I was a child and my stepdad had told me all my life, you're thick, you're never going to amount to anything. Before I'd even start anything in school, oh, you're thick, Tash, you can't do that. It become part of my identity. So these girls, they need their brains rewiring again. They need, this is it. It's not just even like we say about the addiction or the trauma or the inner healing or whatever. It's up here as well, because, you know, you can be set free but still be a prisoner in your mind. You know, you've got to set this free too. Got to take all that language out and put new language in.
Brilliant, thank you. And Marie, is that what Helen did for you, or, you know, can you talk us a little bit through how she went through that process with you yourself?
Absolutely. She was, and what else Helen did, what actually blew me away, she had no understanding of the 12 steps whatsoever. So she went off and she researched about 12 steps, and she probably knows the 12 steps more than people that actually work the 12 steps now. And because she took, that really meant something to me, that she went off and did that, because I still, all these years later, I find it very difficult to trust people. So because she had done that, my mind was open to what she was saying about, well, I don't really think it was work, Marie. And she broke it down in a way that was simple, that I could understand. But I have no qualifications. So when people all start talking to me, like in an academic approach, my brain will automatically shut down. She spoke to me just like a friend, with compassion. And she said, well, don't you think it's society that's labelled you as that? Do you know what I mean? And I see it. I was like, oh, it was like a really light bulb moment. And the next thing, we had to rewrite in our whole website, because it was all over the website.
Yeah. Wow, that's really powerful. Natasha, did you want to come in?
Yeah, sorry, when you said about the 12 steps, Marie, are you on about Celebrate Recovery?
No.
Okay, so for me, we're not running the normal 12 steps. We're doing Celebrate Recovery, which is a 12-step program. So that's the one that I did, and I did that a few years into my walk with God. But for me, we're doing Celebrate Recovery, which is a 12-step program, not your normal AA or NA kind of thing.
Can you explain what the difference is between a normal one and that one?
Of course, yeah. So like Celebrate Recovery, it was actually, it was a guy out in America years and years and years ago. He was an addict himself, and God had given him the blueprints for this recovery program, Jesus Christ being the higher power. He put it all together. That was like 25 years ago. It's gone all the way around the world and it's set millions of people free. So when I say about the 12 steps, this one covers, so it's any life controlling issue. So it'll be any kind of life controlling issue. So for me, I even had an eating disorder through the addiction. Do you know what I mean? I had no love for food. I didn't know how to respect food, couldn't eat. So it deals with everything as a whole. So that's what we're running anyway, Celebrate Recovery.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Just helpful to know the different processes that there are.
Ours is a very different approach. And I'm very aware of Celebrate Recovery and Teen Challenge. I am a Christian, I am of faith, but if you'd have come up to me in my youthing and started to try and preach the gospel at me, I'd have sworn at you. So we come from, so we come from a very different approach, and our day program isn't 12-step either. It's all written by the therapists, the process groups, like they're amazing what they've done, but they do have a requirement to attend a 12-step fellowship of their choice.
Yeah, and I love what you said there, Marie, because like I said to you, I did not believe, I was not interested, didn't think there was a God, I've been abandoned, didn't know whatever, but I had an encounter, so it was different for me. But one thing we're not doing with this and with the girls is trying to beat people over the head with Bibles. It don't work. Hello, it doesn't. You have to just be love. Be love. Be Jesus. You don't have to try and wrestle anyone into the sinner's prayer, but no, it don't work. It doesn't work. So we're not here to try and beat anyone over the head, or do you know what I mean? We just want to be love, and the rest follows. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, we can never have too much love, right? I think it's something this world is does not have enough of. So yeah, more love is always better. So Natasha, you obviously mentioned that you had a bit of an aha moment, and we have a question from Ruth around how, for both of you, you reached the stage of deciding that you needed to leave prostitution, you wanted to leave it. You know, was there a particular event that led you to finally being sick and tired and sick of being sick and tired? Or, you know, I'm sure it was lots of monumental steps, but if you could maybe talk us through that, your experience of that, Natasha, and then Marie, if I can come back to you then, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So after I was powerfully delivered, I was set free, living my life for 12 months, and I went back. I relapsed. So I've got 3 baby daddies to my 5 kids. My first one is the one that I got on the drugs with, but my 2 middle ones was my dealer. He come straight over from Jamaica just to sell crack and heroin, and he was still shotting, and I was obviously living a clean life and whatever else, and darkness and light can't coexist, and you're doing it, and I ended up relapsing and going back. So within these 6 years, as I got my addiction down from £1,000 a day down to just smoking about 500 on the weekend. So I got a job back and I was functioning normally, what you call normally, obviously still drinking in the week. I needed a drink, and then taking all my prescription meds and then smoking crack on the weekends. And then I was in town. This is the thing. I wasn't looking to change because I was quite proud of myself, or quite happy that I'd got down from being a full out on the street doing what I was doing to now having a job and maintaining my addiction just to a weekend. So for me, it was very, very different. But before I had the encounter with God and went down that route, one thing that done me was I remember getting alone in the morning for a grand, and by the late afternoon it had gone. And I remember going to the toilet, and I'm going to be crude, sorry, for a poo. And do you know what? I didn't even have toilet roll. And I thought, a few hours ago I had a grand, and now I don't even have toilet roll to wipe my backside. And I was just like, I'm done. Do you know what I mean? Done. But yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing. Yeah. Marie, was it a similar experience for you?
No, rock bottom had a trapdoor for me. I just, whenever I thought I couldn't go lower, I just went deeper. You know, after that rape, it was 10 years till I exited. You would have thought that would. Now I experienced like Natasha, I experienced homelessness, losing the children, DV relationships. I think there was just, in the end, I was so isolated and so alone. The only people that I used to see was my key worker to get my methadone prescription, the pharmacist to pick it up, my drug dealer, and the man behind the counter in the off licence. So the only language that I spoke was, where's my script? Are you about? And where's my change? That was like, my world become so small, and it was like that for 3 years, and it was like waking up in Groundhog Day, going down the red light area. And what happens at the end, the alcohol took, so crack and heroin, yes, very, very, very damaging drug. I couldn't I could, because I've just been talking that language, the word work came out. I couldn't go down to the red light area without drinking 8 cans of Tennants before I got down there, and the alcohol took me to some dark level that crack and heroin never took me to. And I can just remember being in my flat, knowing I was dying. I was having seizures on my own. There was suicide attempts, and I just knew I was dying. I'd lost so many people. I'd lost so many other friends to addiction, but there was just this little part of me that kept fighting to stay alive, because I've got children. I wanted to die, but I didn't want to die for my children.
Well, we are very glad that you did keep fighting, and we really appreciate you both sharing these stories and sharing your heart as well. We have a couple of minutes left, so just maybe one or two more questions, if that's okay, and then we will wrap it up, because we want to let people go at 9 o'clock. Although I'm sure we could all stay here all evening and continue to ask you lots of questions, but yeah, we want to be mindful of people's time, and yours especially. So, you've really talked about all of the massive complex needs that are affecting women and girls involved in prostitution, from mental health to addiction, childhood trauma, age of entry, also something that was mentioned that's really important. And these are all huge issues just in and of themselves, and then obviously they all overlap with each other. And I'm just, from your experience, both being involved in prostitution, addiction, recovering from that, the services that you're setting up now, what are 3 things that this country and other countries need to really support women who want to exit prostitution or who are still involved in prostitution? What do we need? If we were meeting with Boris Johnson tomorrow morning, what would we be saying to him that we need in this country and other countries to really support women to exit prostitution? Natasha.
Okay, so for myself, if we were speaking to the big boys now,
yeah,
honest with you, I don't know if I should say this or shouldn't, I don't know. Oh well, okay, I'm going to say it. I've always got to speak my mind, sorry. I don't think that will change anything, because it's all corrupt. They make a lot of money out of it, and some of them are in it. So I'm sorry, I have to say it. So I don't know really what would we say, what more? If they were on our side, and some of them are, I can't say that, because I've got a great relationship with the police here. They want to partner with us and we want to work together. As I said, it's all about unity, working together. But to put more money into this to help them get out would be a great start. Why are me and Marie scratching around like this and having to fund? There should be people that we can go and apply for and say, there's 50 grand.
Yeah.
Right? All right, we want to see where it's going. We want to see the proposal. We want to see the fruit at the end of it. But why are we scratching around trying to exhaust every trustee and every volunteer we have to keep doing this fundraising? I haven't really even started yet. Like I said, there needs to be a pot of money to help us to help these women.
Yeah.
If anything, because we have already the life skills and we've been there, done it, and wore the t-shirt. We know, as myself and Marie have said tonight, this, and we're doing this, and this can help. But we need money. We need the money to make it work.
Yeah. Second that.
That'd be one thing, and the next thing I would be, it's the men. You've got, it's all good, the women, dealing with the women, and even the men need help. They need help. Something, we're all here going, oh, they're this, they're that, and they are. Some of them are just, but some of them, they need help themselves. They need help. So we need to look at how we'd work with, maybe putting more CCT up. We used to do a thing in Holbeck where it was name and shame, and then they kind of stopped coming in because obviously they're married, they've got wives. Do you know what I mean? And then we put it up on Facebook, weekly punter of the week, and doing this and doing all these things, but then it was breaking the wife's heart and it was causing problems. So I guess working with the men to get them some kind of training, something's gone wrong in their life, to make them think that they can come down and perform these acts or the things that they want of these women that are not well, so yeah,
and that is that's a big element of the Nordic model as well, is looking at addressing that issue of the demand. Which is central as well to all of this.
Absolutely.
Marie, I will go to you for the semi-last word.
Faster exit strategies, clear pathways, straight out, clear path. More organisations like 125, the Nelson's Trust, Beyond the Streets. They all focus on exiting the women. And like Natasha said, yes, target the buyers. And it took me a lot of work to get to this place, but them men need help as well. They really do. It's not a justification. Some of them have got a sex addiction. Some of them have got a cocaine addiction. Some of them are just not very nice people. You know, someone that's been harmed quite a lot by these men. As I said, it took a lot of work to get there, but they need to target them and start giving them what I'd like to do one day. Actually, we did have one buyer who's now in recovery. He heard about the project and he donated £2,000 as part of his men's process to our project. So that brings me on to the next one. Money. There needs to be money put into it. We shouldn't be having to get up at 5 o'clock on a Sunday morning to go and do a boot sale to pay our rent.
Yeah, I think that is an unfortunate reality. And I think, you know, as we mentioned earlier, in relation to the Nordic model and any type of work around this area, is we need to have really good awareness campaigns as well, and to be, you know, doing more of this educational work in our schools and colleges with young people, so we're not creating another generation of young boys as well who are going to go down the same track. We are nearly at the end. I just want to share a couple of slides before we wrap up. Before I do that, I just want to say an unbelievably huge thank you, Marie and Natasha. It has been a really, really brilliant webinar. I hope everybody has gotten a lot out of it. I know that I have. I know we had plenty of questions in the chat that we couldn't get to. Lots and lots of praise and thanks for you too, and your time and sharing your stories and sharing what you're doing. It's been really, really brilliant. So we just want to say a big massive thank you to both of you. I will now shamelessly once again plug what you are both doing. If you give me 2 seconds. So this is Marie, this is your work, Carrie's outreach, aspirations program and family support. So everybody, please go online, find this work and donate, fundraise, just add your support, raise awareness. I know that Marie would really, really appreciate it. Again, here is the GoFundMe for the Safe House for Women that Natasha spoke about. Natasha, if we're okay to share that link, we will share it. Great, yeah, we will do that. And then if everybody could please donate as well, that would be super. These women are doing amazing work, and we want to do everything we can to support them and their volunteers and trustees and everybody who is working on the front line of this particular work. We also have a plug for a petition that Nordic Model Now launched publicly about a month ago. We have 10,000 signatures, and it is in relation to Leicester University's toolkit that they have released around sex work and how women can be supported and can be involved in sex work when they attend university. This is not something that we wish to support as Nordic Model Now, and we are actively trying to prevent that toolkit from being spread to universities across the UK. Please sign our petition around this so that we can actually stop this toolkit from getting any further than it already has. We will also share this in the chat as well, and you can find it on all our social media channels where you can log on and sign that petition, and please share it widely. If you want more information on Nordic Model Now, we are online, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we have a Gmail account, we're all the channels. So please do get in touch if you have any further questions based on this evening's webinar, on anything else we're doing. We love hearing from people, so please do contact us. And I think all that is left for me to do is once again thank our wonderful speakers, Natasha and Marie. Thank you all for joining us, for giving us your time this evening. We really appreciate it. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of the evening. So thank you so much.